The millionaire needed a date for his sister's wedding, but found the love of his life instead. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The soft glow of the late afternoon sun spilled through the cafe windows, washing the worn wooden tables in gold. Lily Hart stood behind the counter, wiping down the same spot for the 5th time, pretending not to hear her manager arguing with the supplier again. She focused on the familiar sounds, the low hum of conversation, the hiss of the espresso machine, the gentle creak of the front door whenever a customer stepped inside. It grounded her, kept her from thinking about the red, overdue notice taped inside her purse or the voicemail from the hospital reminding her about her mother's billing cycle. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, let out a slow breath, and forced a smile as she handed a to-go cup to a regular. "Have a great day," she said, hoping her voice didn't sound as thin as she felt. Inside, she was doing math, running numbers, chasing hope like it was slipping through her fingers. Rent was due in 4 days. The florist's side job barely covered groceries, and her mom's next set of medications would wipe out everything she'd saved. She needed a miracle, or at least something close. That was when the door chimed again, and in walked a man who did not belong to this neighborhood at all. Tall, sharply dressed, and carrying the kind of calm that came from knowing the world opened its doors for you before you even knocked. Ethan Ward. She didn't know his name yet, but she felt his presence instantly, like the temperature shifted around him. He stepped up to the counter, glancing at the handwritten menu as if he had never seen prices that low before. Lily cleared her throat. "What can I get for you?" He looked at her then, really looked, and for a second, something unreadable flickered in his eyes, as if he recognized her from somewhere, though she was certain they had never met. "Just a black coffee," he said, voice low, smooth, confident. She rang him up, trying to ignore how her fingers trembled just slightly when she handed him his change. She'd seen men like him only in magazines lying around the salon next door, tailored suits, perfect posture, eyes that never seemed to apologize for taking up space. Definitely not someone who'd walk into a cafe where the cookie display case jammed every other day. But he didn't leave right away. He lingered, watching her with quiet focus, as if debating something. Then he spoke. "You were at the florist shop on 5th this morning, weren't you?" Lily blinked. "Oh yeah, I help out there sometimes." "Right," he murmured. "You handled that bouquet crisis better than their actual staff." She let out a small, awkward laugh. "I try." He nodded once, almost to himself, and walked toward the back corner table. Lily shook off the strange moment and returned to wiping counters, unaware that Ethan kept glancing her way, measuring, calculating, searching for a reason to trust the impulsive idea forming in his mind. Because Ethan Ward had a problem. A very personal, very inconvenient problem. And she was the only person today who had looked him in the eye without a hint of recognition or expectation. Which made her perfect. Perfect for the role he desperately needed someone to play this weekend. His date to his sister's wedding. Ethan took a slow sip of his coffee and made up his mind. The girl wiping the counter, the one with tired eyes but steady hands, he would ask her. And everything that followed would change both of their lives. Now, in the quiet lull between the afternoon rush and the evening wave, Lily tried not to think about the man in the crisp charcoal suit sitting in the corner. She focused on stacking cups, wiping the espresso machine, aligning sugar packets that did not need aligning. Anything to avoid wondering why someone like him had noticed her twice in one day. But every time she glanced up, even for a second, Ethan Ward was already looking away, as if he had been caught studying her. She brushed it off. People like him did not study people like her. By the time her shift ended, the sun had dipped low, casting orange streaks across the parking lot as she stepped outside. She wrapped her thin jacket tighter around herself and started toward the bus stop. She heard footsteps behind her. Firm, decisive. She turned. It was him. Ethan Ward. Coffee cup in one hand, car keys in the other, walking straight toward her with the kind of confidence that made her heart stumble for reasons she could not explain. "Lily, right?" he asked. She blinked. Yes, did I forget to charge you or something? No, nothing like that. He paused, looking almost hesitant. A strange softness flickered in his eyes, quickly replaced by a calm determination. I have a strange request, and I know it is going to sound unusual, but I need you to hear me out before you say no. She instinctively took half a step back. Are you trying to recruit me for a pyramid scheme? His lips twitched in the faintest smile. No, nothing illegal. I promise. Then what is it? She asked, crossing her arms tightly, preparing herself for anything. Or so she thought. I need a date, he said plainly. For this weekend. My sister is getting married. It is a big deal for my family, and I am expected to bring someone. A significant someone. Lily stared at him as if waiting for the punchline. You need a date? Me. Yes. For a wedding? Correct. A real wedding? With actual people. That is typically how weddings work, he replied gently. She made a small, disbelieving sound in her throat. You could ask literally anyone in your world. Models, executives, charity ambassadors, women who wear dresses that cost more than my rent. Why me? Ethan held her gaze, and for a brief moment, she saw something behind his eyes that did not match his polished exterior. Something tired. Something lonely. Something real. Because, he said slowly, you are the only person today who looked at me like I was a human being, not a headline or a paycheck. You spoke to me without filters. No agenda. No expectations. It has been a very long time since someone did that. Lily felt her chest tighten in a strange, uncomfortable way. She shook her head. This is unreal. You do not even know me. Which is exactly why you are perfect for this, he said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a sleek business card, and placed it gently in her hand. I can pay you. Generously. Everything will stay professional. There will be rules. Boundaries. You will not be uncomfortable. I will make sure of that. Lily closed her fingers around the card, feeling the embossed letters under her thumb. Ethan Ward. She still did not know who he truly was, but the name carried a weight she could almost feel. Think about it, he said, stepping back. If you say no, I will walk away and never bring it up again. But if you say yes, you might help me survive a weekend I have been dreading for months. She watched him walk toward a black car that probably cost more than her entire life. The engine purred to life, headlights flashing once. He rolled down the window, looked at her one last time, and said, if you decide to come, call me tonight. The event is in 3 days. Then he drove off, leaving Lily in the fading glow of streetlights, gripping the card as if it were burning her palm. She looked up at the darkening sky and whispered to herself, what on earth just happened? And for the first time in months, her life felt like it was tilting towards something she could not name, something terrifying, something impossible, something that might just save her. The bus rattled down the dimly lit street, while Lily sat stiffly in her usual window seat, Ethan Ward's business card still warm in her hand. She stared at his name again and again, tracing the raised edges of the lettering with her thumb as if the texture itself could help her make sense of what had happened. A millionaire asking her, a cafe worker barely holding her life together, to be his date for a high-society wedding. It felt like some odd dream you wake up from halfway through and laugh about later. Except she was not dreaming. She was very much awake, and her heart had not stopped its uneven flutter since the moment he drove away. When she reached her apartment, she pushed open the creaking door and flicked on the light. The tiny studio greeted her with its familiar, uneven hum from the old refrigerator and the faint smell of lavender detergent lingering in the air. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the peeling paint on the opposite wall while the card rested on her knee. The idea was ridiculous, completely impossible, absolutely unreasonable, and yet her mind kept drifting to the unopened envelopes stacked on her kitchen counter. Medical bills, rent reminders, a notice about increased bus fares starting next month. She squeezed her eyes shut. She hated that money had become a force that dictated every corner of her life. She hated even more that an offer like Ethan's could tempt her this much. At nearly 10 o'clock, her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend Mia. How was work today? Need anything? Lily typed back, all good. Tired. We'll call later. She dropped the phone beside her, took a breath, and picked it up again. She stared at the screen, debating. Then she dialed the number on Ethan's card before she could change her mind. It rang once, twice. Then his voice came through, warm, calm, and entirely unexpected. Lily, she swallowed. Yes, it is me. I thought about your offer. There was a brief silence on the line, and she could practically feel him holding his breath. And, if you still need someone, I will help, she said quietly. Just tell me what I need to do. Ethan released a slow breath, as if relief poured straight through the line. Thank you, he said, sincerity deep in his voice. I know this is unusual. I will make sure everything is comfortable and professional. All right, she whispered. What is the plan? I will pick you up tomorrow at 5 o'clock, he said. We need to go over a few things. Wardrobe, event details, and the agreement. Nothing complicated. Just enough to get through the weekend. She nodded, even though he could not see her. Okay. Lily. His voice softened. You are helping me more than you know. When the call ended, Lily let the phone fall into her lap. She stared into the dim light of her apartment, feeling the weight of the decision she had just made. It was not just a date. It was a performance, a job, a leap into a world she had never touched before. She barely slept that night, and the next day passed in a blur. She managed her shift at the café, trying to act normal even though nerves twisted tight in her stomach. At exactly 5 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up beside the curb. The door opened, and Ethan stepped out, looking impossibly composed in a tailored navy jacket. He glanced at her with a small, reassuring nod. Ready? She inhaled deeply and nodded back. As ready as I can be. He opened the passenger door for her, and when she stepped inside, she felt as though she had crossed an invisible line separating her old life from whatever was about to unfold. The car pulled away from the curb, the city lights stretching into a blur outside the windows. Ethan watched her hands clasped together in her lap and spoke gently, almost cautiously. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise I will guide you through everything. You will not be alone in this. She bit her lower lip, trying to steady her breathing. I appreciate that. He offered a faint smile. We will stop by a stylist I trust. She will help you choose a dress for the wedding. Nothing flashy, unless you want that. Then we will go through the contract. Contract? She asked, eyes widening. It is simple, he assured. Just boundaries so that you feel safe, and so my family understands our agreement. I want transparency. No surprises. She nodded but said nothing, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She hoped she was doing the right thing. She hoped she would not disappoint him. And most of all, she hoped she would not embarrass herself in front of people who lived in a world so different from hers. As the car turned toward a district filled with elegant storefronts and soft glowing lights, Ethan glanced at her again, studying her quietly as if trying to read her worries. He spoke gently. Lily, take a breath. You belong here tonight more than you think. His voice was steady, but her heart trembled anyway. She wondered how someone like him could possibly believe that. But she followed him into the boutique anyway, stepping deeper into a life she had never imagined, unaware of how much everything was about to change. The boutique doors slid open with a soft chime, releasing a wave of warm light and the faint scent of jasmine into the cool evening air. Lily hesitated at the entrance, suddenly hyper-aware of her worn sneakers and the frayed cuff of her jacket. The boutique looked like another world, with marble floors reflecting soft golden light and mannequins draped in gowns that looked far too luxurious to even touch. Ethan stepped beside her, his presence steady and calm. Do not worry, he said quietly. You are my guest here. A woman with sleek black hair and an elegant blazer approached them with a warm smile. Mr. Ward, good to see you again, she said before her eyes shifted to Lily. And this must be the young lady you mentioned. What a lovely face. We will find something perfect for her. Lily swallowed hard, feeling her cheeks warm. She had never been called lovely by anyone who mattered. The stylist led her into a private fitting area while Ethan stayed near the entrance, giving her space but remaining close enough that she could feel his presence through the curtain. The stylist handed her several gowns, each more intimidating than the last. Lily ran her fingers over the fabrics, afraid she might wrinkle them just by breathing. You can take your time, the stylist said. And do not overthink. Just try them on. Lily nodded and slipped into the first dress, a simple navy gown that clung softly to her waist. When she stepped out, she found Ethan waiting just outside the fitting room, sitting with one ankle resting casually over the other. He looked up, and something unreadable flickered across his face. It suits you, he said gently. But try another. I want you to feel comfortable. She tried a second dress, then a third, each one stirring a slightly different reaction in Ethan's eyes. He never commented too much, never pushed, just offered subtle nods and quiet encouragement. When she stepped into the fourth dress, a soft champagne gown with delicate beading across the waist, she felt something shift. It was the first dress that made her feel like she belonged somewhere beautiful. She stepped out slowly, her hands brushing down the smooth fabric. Ethan stood immediately, his expression softening in a way she had not seen before. "That one," he said quietly. "It is perfect." She looked down at herself, barely recognizing the reflection in the mirror. For once she did not feel like a girl barely making ends meet. She felt possible. After the stylist finalized the alterations, Ethan guided her toward a seating area where a leather folder lay waiting on the small table. He opened it carefully. "This is the agreement," he said. "It is simple, nothing binding emotionally. Just logistics so that you feel safe and so my family understands this is a professional arrangement." Lily sat down beside him, her hands clasped together. "What does it say exactly?" "It outlines the expectations for the weekend," he said. "We arrive together, attend the rehearsal dinner, the ceremony, and the reception. We present ourselves as a couple, but there is no physical contact unless you initiate it. If anyone asks how we met, we stick to the backstory we will practice. And most importantly, you can leave at any time if you feel uncomfortable." She listened closely, surprised by how thoughtful and considerate the terms were. "Why are you being so careful?" she asked softly. Ethan leaned back slightly, his expression shifting. "Because people like me usually do not get second chances when it comes to trust. And because you are helping me more than you realize. The least I can do is make sure you feel safe." She looked at him, really looked, and saw a subtle tension in his shoulders, a heaviness he carried behind the polished exterior. "Does your family really expect you to bring someone?" "Yes," he said. "It has been a difficult year for my sister. She wants everything to look perfect, including her brother's personal life. And I did not want to disappoint her." Lily thought about that for a moment. She knew what it felt like to want to protect someone you loved. She picked up the folder, read the simple terms again, and then signed at the bottom. "All right," she said. "I will be there." Ethan let out a breath he had been holding and closed the folder gently. "Thank you." When they left the boutique, the city lights wrapped the streets in a soft glow. Ethan walked her to the car, keeping a careful distance as if he did not want to overwhelm her. When she settled into the passenger seat, he glanced at her with a quiet, steady expression. "Lily," he said softly, "I promise this weekend will be easier than you think." She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hope so." As the car pulled away, carrying her toward a weekend in a world she had never imagined, she felt something unfamiliar stir inside her. Not fear, not excitement, something in between, something that felt a lot like fate beginning to shift beneath her feet. The next morning arrived faster than Lily expected, and by the time Ethan's car pulled up in front of her building, her nerves were already buzzing through every inch of her body. She checked her reflection in the small mirror by the door, smoothing her hair for the 10th time, even though she knew she looked exactly the same as she had 5 minutes earlier. When she stepped outside, Ethan was leaning against the passenger side of his car, dressed in a crisp white shirt and a gray jacket that made him look effortlessly composed. He straightened when he saw her. "Good morning," he said gently. "Ready to start our preparation?" She gave a nervous laugh. "As ready as I can be." He opened the door for her, and once she was seated, he circled around to the driver's side. As they pulled into traffic, the city waking up around them, he glanced at her with a small smile. "Today should be easy. Just some practice. A few things my family might ask. Nothing overwhelming." "Your family sounds intimidating already," she admitted. Ethan gave a soft exhale. "They can be particular, but they will like you. I can already tell." She looked out the window, hoping he was right. They spent the morning at a quiet rooftop lounge, chosen deliberately because it was empty at that hour. Ethan sat across from her at a small glass table, the city skyline stretching behind him as he handed her a folder. "This," he said, "is our backstory. Nothing dramatic. Nothing too complicated. Just believable." She opened the folder and scanned the short notes typed in clean, even lines. They supposedly met at her florist job when she helped him pick flowers for a client. They exchanged numbers. They bonded quickly. They had been seeing each other for a few weeks. Simple, manageable, real enough that no one would question it. For the next hour, Ethan coached her on small details, his sister's name, his cousin's job, the layout of the venue, a few personality quirks of relatives who might interrogate her. Lily tried to absorb everything, repeating details out loud until they became familiar. At one point, she made a joke about needing flashcards, and for the first time, Ethan laughed, a warm, genuine sound that surprised both of them. Eventually, he leaned back in his chair, studying her with thoughtful eyes. "You are doing better than most people would," he said. "You are calm. You adapt quickly, and you do not overthink." "I am definitely overthinking," she said, raising a brow. "Just trying not to show it." He smiled. "You are doing a remarkable job." Their next stop was a quiet restaurant on the edge of town, the kind of place with soft music and calm lighting. Ethan explained that this was a rehearsal for the rehearsal dinner, a chance to get used to being in public together. He offered his arm awkwardly, and Lily hesitated before looping hers through it. It felt strange at first, too proper, too formal, but his expression softened as if he could sense her discomfort. "We can practice until it feels natural," he said. "No pressure." As they walked inside, the hostess greeted them warmly, clearly recognizing Ethan, and led them to a table near the back. He pulled out her chair, a gesture so old-fashioned and gentle that Lily felt her chest warm unexpectedly. They talked quietly through their meal, covering topics his family might bring up, travel, hobbies, how they first met. At one point Ethan asked, "What would you say is the best thing about working at the café?" She took a moment before answering. "I like seeing people come in tired and leave a little more alive. A good cup of coffee can save someone's whole morning. It is small, but it matters." Ethan watched her with a softness she did not understand. "Small things matter more than people realize," he said. "Sometimes they change everything." After lunch, they returned to the rooftop to practice subtle gestures, how they would stand together, how they would greet guests, when to lean close, when to smile. It felt strange at first, but slowly, something shifted. Lily found herself relaxing, leaning slightly into his presence without realizing it. Ethan noticed, but he did not comment. He simply adjusted with her, matching her pace, as if he had been waiting for her to trust him even a fraction more. By the time evening arrived, the sun turning the sky a soft amber, Ethan walked her to the car, his hand hovering near her back, but never touching. "You did really well today," he said. "Tomorrow we leave for the wedding weekend. Pack whatever makes you comfortable." She nodded, feeling a swirl of disbelief and anticipation twist through her chest. "Thank you for being patient." He gave a small smile that reached his eyes. "Lily, this is supposed to look natural." He paused, holding her gaze. "And with you it already does." She felt the words settle inside her, warm and disorienting, as if a line she had sworn not to cross suddenly blurred just a little. And as she stepped out of the car and watched him drive away, she realized the weekend ahead might not be the only thing changing. Something inside her was shifting too, quietly, undeniably, like the beginning of a story she had never expected to be part of. The following morning, the air felt different, almost charged, as Lily zipped up her small suitcase and double-checked everything twice even though she knew it was unnecessary. She kept telling herself this was just a job, a temporary agreement, a weekend performance. But her heartbeat disagreed every time she thought of Ethan's smile the day before. When his car arrived, she took a steadying breath and stepped outside. Ethan emerged from the driver's side, dressed casually in a dark sweater and tailored pants, looking far more relaxed than she felt. "Good morning," he said with a warmth that eased her nerves more than she wanted to admit. He lifted her suitcase effortlessly and placed it in the trunk. As they drove out of the city, the streets slowly shifted from busy intersections to quiet suburban roads lined with trees. The wedding was taking place at his parents' estate, and although Lily tried to imagine what an estate looked like, nothing prepared her for the reality that came into view. The gates rose tall and ornate, opening slowly to reveal a long winding driveway, surrounded by manicured lawns and perfectly trimmed hedges. Lily's jaw tightened slightly. "This is where you grew up?" she asked softly. "Yes," Ethan said, watching her reaction carefully. "It is a lot, I know." "A lot might be an understatement," she whispered, gripping her hands together. The car rolled to a stop in front of a sprawling home with stone pillars and tall windows that shimmered in the afternoon sun. People moved about the front yard, arranging decorations and carrying boxes of floral arrangements. Before Lily could mentally prepare herself, a woman stepped outside, practically glowing with excitement. "Ethan!" she exclaimed, rushing forward. Ethan's entire expression softened. "Lily, this is my sister, Claire." Claire turned to Lily with bright eyes and genuine warmth. "So this is the woman my brother has been keeping a secret from us." Lily felt her stomach twist, remembering the agreement, the boundaries, the rules, but Claire continued before she could respond. "You are even prettier than he said." Ethan cleared his throat sharply. "Claire." "What?" she teased. "I am allowed to compliment your girlfriend." Lily felt her cheeks heat, but forced a polite smile. "It is very nice to meet you." Claire linked arms with her instantly. "Come on, I want to show you everything." "You are staying in the guest suite next to Ethan's room. I made sure they set it up with flowers. I hope you like lilies." Lily blinked at the coincidence, but followed as Claire guided her inside the house. Ethan walked beside them, occasionally intercepting a curious glance from a relative or giving Lily reassuring looks whenever her nerves became too obvious. The interior of the house was stunning, but in a way that felt warm instead of cold. Family photos lined the hallway, framed pictures of Claire and Ethan as children running around the same yard they had just passed. Lily paused at one photo in particular where teenage Ethan held a guitar beside a younger Claire. His smile in the picture was wide, carefree, nothing like the guarded expression he carried now. "You played guitar?" Lily asked, looking at him. Ethan seemed almost embarrassed. "A long time ago." Claire chimed in. "He used to write songs too, but he will pretend he was horrible at it." Ethan shot her a look that made Lily quietly laugh. As they continued walking, Claire suddenly lowered her voice. "I am really glad he brought you." Lily blinked, surprised. "Why?" "Because he has not brought anyone home in years," Claire said softly. "No one, not even close. And when he told me he finally met someone who made him feel normal again, I knew I had to meet you." Lily felt her breath catch, her heart stumbling at Claire's words. She stole a glance at Ethan. He looked away almost shyly, something vulnerable flickering across his features before he cleared his throat. "Claire, do not overwhelm her," he muttered. Claire squeezed Lily's hand. "I am sorry. I am just excited. You seem good for him." Lily swallowed, unsure how to respond, because nothing about this was real. Not the relationship, not the story, not the impression Claire had of them. And yet, beneath all the pretending, something real was beginning to form, something neither she nor Ethan had planned for. Claire finally released her and stepped back. "I will let you get settled. We have the rehearsal dinner tonight. Dress warmly. The courtyard gets chilly when the sun sets." As Claire walked away, Ethan lingered in the hallway with Lily, his hands in his pockets. He looked at her carefully, gently, as if measuring her unease. "You handled that well," he said. "I know this is overwhelming." "She is kind," Lily replied softly. "Your whole family seems kind." Ethan's expression softened in a way she could not read. "They will be even kinder once they really know you." Lily's chest tightened as she followed him to the guest suite, realizing for the first time that the hardest part of this weekend might not be pretending to belong, but trying not to want something that was never supposed to be real. The rehearsal dinner began just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow across the courtyard. Strings of lights hung overhead, flickering gently as guests gathered around long tables draped in white linen. Lily stood beside Ethan, trying to keep her breathing steady while his relatives greeted them with curious smiles. She kept her hand lightly hooked around his arm, just as they had practiced, but the closeness felt different now, almost too natural. They made it through the first hour without incident. Lily answered questions smoothly, remembering every detail Ethan had taught her, and each time she met his eyes, he gave her a small, reassuring nod. But calm never lasted long in stories like these. The moment arrived when a tall woman in a deep red dress approached, carrying the kind of confidence that came from knowing she could bruise a person with just a smile. Ethan stiffened beside Lily, his posture changing instantly. "Madison," he said, his tone polite but cold. Lily felt the name like a shard of ice in her chest. His ex, the one the agreement had warned her about. Madison's eyes drifted to Lily, scanning her from head to toe with a slow, sharp smirk. "So this is her," she said, "the mysterious girlfriend no one has ever heard of." Lily kept her expression calm, but her palms began to sweat. "I do not believe we have met," she said softly. Madison leaned in. "Oh, we will get to know each other very soon. I always make sure to learn everything about the women Ethan suddenly pretends to care about. Ethan's jaw tightened. Madison, do not start. Start. She repeated, raising an eyebrow. I thought we were all about honesty now. Speaking of which, she reached into her clutch and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Lily's stomach dropped even before Madison unfolded it. The contract. Their contract. Madison tapped the paper with one manicured fingernail. Did you really think people would not talk? That no one would notice you hiring someone to play your date? Ethan, you used to be more careful. The courtyard went quiet. Heads turned. A murmur rippled through the guests. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between Lily and Madison. Where did you get that? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Madison shrugged casually. People tell me things, especially when they are worried about you making another mistake. Lily felt heat rising behind her eyes. She had tried so hard, done everything right, and still she was being exposed as a fraud in front of people she had hoped to impress. She whispered, Ethan, I should go. But Ethan shook his head. No, you stay. His voice was firm, protective, something deeper than pretend. But Madison was not finished. It is pathetic, really, she added. You could have any woman you want, but instead you bring someone who does not belong here. Lily flinched as if struck. Ethan's expression darkened, his voice cold. Do not ever speak about her that way. Why? Madison challenged. Because she is your employee? Your charity project? Lily felt something snap inside. Before Ethan could respond, she stepped forward, her voice quiet but steady. I never asked for any of this. I agreed to help because he said it mattered to his family. I never pretended to be someone I am not. Her throat tightened. If I embarrassed you, I am sorry. She turned away before anyone could see her tears. Ethan called her name, but she kept walking, slipping through the courtyard and into the cool night air, needing to breathe, needing space, needing to stop. The hurt from swallowing her whole. Behind her, the murmurs grew louder, but she ignored them. All she could think was that she should not have come. She should not have let herself believe she belonged here. And most of all, she should not have let herself start caring about a man who never could have been hers in the first place. Lily stepped into the quiet garden behind the estate, the cool night air brushing against her skin as she tried to breathe past the ache in her chest. The lights from the rehearsal dinner glowed softly in the distance, blurred by the tears she refused to let fall. She leaned against a stone railing overlooking the small pond, gripping the edge tightly as the humiliation replayed in her mind. She had known this world was not meant for her, but hearing it thrown at her in front of everyone still cut deeper than she expected. She heard footsteps behind her, but did not turn. Lily. Ethan's voice was low, tense, carrying more emotion than he usually allowed. She wiped her eyes quickly, straightened her shoulders, and finally looked at him. You should go back. Your family does not need more drama. He stepped closer, his expression tight with regret. Madison should never have spoken to you that way. What she did was cruel and completely unacceptable. She had the contract. Ethan, Lily whispered. She knew. Someone told her. And now everyone will know too. I do not care, he said firmly. They can know every detail of the agreement. It does not change how I feel. She blinked, startled. How you feel? Ethan exhaled shakily, running a hand through his hair. Lily, I was the one who made this arrangement. I was the one who asked you to pretend. But somewhere along the way, none of this felt like pretending anymore. Her heartbeat stumbled, unsure if she had heard him correctly. He continued, voice softer. You walked into my life when I least expected it. You looked at me like I was just a man, not a headline or a bank account. You made me laugh again. You made me feel human again. That contract, his voice tightened, was my shield, not yours. And I am done hiding behind it. Before she could respond, he pulled the folded paper from his jacket pocket, the same one Madison had waved like a weapon. Without hesitation, he tore it straight down the middle, then again and again, letting the pieces fall to the grass at their feet. No more rules, he said quietly. No more pretending. Lily stared at the torn paper, her breath catching. Ethan, you do not have to do this. I want to, he said. I needed a date for a weekend. But I found someone I do not want to lose when this weekend ends. The sincerity in his voice disarmed her completely. He stepped closer, careful, giving her space but offering something real. Lily, I am asking you, not as a contract partner, but as a man who has fallen for you. Will you stay? Not because you are paid to, Not because of my family, but because you want to. For the first time since she ran from the courtyard, Lily felt her heartbeat steady. She looked into his eyes and saw no performance, no facade, just truth. And slowly, she whispered, "Yes, I will stay." The night around them seemed to still for a moment, as if quietly acknowledging a beginning neither of them had expected. The morning of the wedding arrived with soft sunlight spilling across the estate lawns, illuminating rows of white chairs and delicate floral arches. Lily stood beside Ethan as guests gathered, the air buzzing with quiet excitement instead of judgment. The whispers from the night before had faded, replaced with warm smiles and curious glances that no longer frightened her. When the ceremony began, Claire walked down the aisle glowing with happiness, and Lily felt Ethan subtly reach for her hand, intertwining their fingers as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She glanced at him, and the look he gave her was steady, certain, and full of meaning. After the vows were exchanged and cheers filled the garden, the reception unfolded beneath strings of twinkling lights. Music floated through the air as couples danced, and Lily found herself watching Claire and her new husband sway gently across the floor. Ethan appeared at Lily's side with a slow smile. "May I?" She nodded, letting him guide her into the soft light. His hand settled against her back, warm and grounding, while her other hand rested in his. They moved together effortlessly, no pretending, no performance, just two people who had found something unexpected and real. When the music shifted to a quieter melody, Ethan leaned close, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "I meant what I said last night. When this weekend ends, I want you in my life. Not as an arrangement, but as someone I care for. Someone I choose." Lily felt her chest warm, a slow, steady bloom of certainty spreading through her. "I choose you too," she whispered. Ethan's eyes softened in a way she had never seen before, and he kissed her gently, the kind of kiss that spoke of beginnings, not endings. As the night deepened and laughter rose around them, Lily realized that she had walked into the weekend as a hired date, but was leaving as something entirely different. She had found a partner, a future, and a love she never thought possible. And Ethan, the millionaire who once needed a date to survive a wedding, had found the love of his life instead.